In this video for the Outer Worlds 2, we'll be diving into what I think is the most broken build in the game right now. The Explosive Specialist, aka the Demolitionist build. If you like filling the screen with explosions, firing off rockets, grenades, and explosive rounds, all while taking very little to no damage at all thanks to a busted item set that provides infinite temporary health, then this is definitely the build for you. In this build guide, we'll cover everything you need to know from character creation, like backgrounds, traits, skill selection, perks, and even flaws to set up your character the right way, plus the best weapons, armor, gadgets, and even companions that synergize the best with this playstyle. So if you're ready to destroy literally everything in the Outer Worlds 2 without breaking a sweat, then let's jump in. As always, you can use the timestamps below to skip around or rewatch a section, and we do have a full written guide for this one linked down below on our website hacktheminotaur.com. That's going to show even more details in terms of the perks, gear options, and a lot more, so check that out. First up though, how do you know if the explosives build is right for you in the Outer Worlds 2? Well, this build will offer a good mix of close range and far damage based on our explosive weapons, of which there's a pretty good variety here. If you like a build that can absorb a lot of damage too, this is going to be a great option for that. Finally, it's just fun to watch things explode in this game, and you'll get plenty of those kill shot cams to enjoy. On the negative side though, this build is a bit slower in terms of mobility as we're using heavy armor, so no sprint speed bonuses in combat, for example. It can also be pretty ammo intensive, though there are some surprising options for guns on this one that use common ammo types and make them explosive, so you can spread your ammo use around a bit with the right mods. But let's dive into character creation first. In terms of backgrounds, I recommend the Lawbringer background here, though you don't have to follow this path necessarily. I just wanted my build to lean a bit more onto the Space Ranger or Space Justice side of things, but with a bit of an edge. He's a good guy technically, but with a lot of collateral damage. Choose what you want here in terms of RP flavor and what you prefer though. A much more important decision is your traits, as this is where you really start to define your build in detail. First trait I recommend you get is Innovative, as this focuses on crafting, increasing the amount of items that you can craft. As I mentioned before, this build can get pretty resource heavy, so a bit of extra in that department goes a long way. Depending on your focus, you can also pick a second trait here. Go with Nimble if you want increased mobility in combat to counteract the heavy armor, or you could go with Lucky if you want increased crit chance and stupidly good story choices based on pure luck. For a negative trait to balance things, I would go with either Abrasive or Dumb. Definitely don't do Sickly though, as you'll feel the negative impact of less health and healing on this build more than most. And now for skills, you'll want to tag Explosives and Guns to start. Guns will help carry you early on when your explosive weapon options are few and far between, but you will want to eventually make Explosives your primary focus and max that all the way to 20. You can take Guns to 20 as well on this build, and that will give you a lot more damage options, as we'll see with the perks here in just a minute. And then in terms of secondary skills, I recommend Engineering to provide a good bit of defensive support, which will help this build out quite a bit at endgame, and Speech is always a good option for more dialogue options, as well as increasing your overall damage with perks like Space Ranger. But at this point, you can jump right into the game and start playing. Well, one thing to watch out for, of course, though, is flaws in the Outer Worlds 2, which are another character customization element, and these pop up dynamically as you play based on decisions that you make. There are about 30 of these in total, and they vary pretty widely. But for this build in particular, there is one flaw that stands out, and that's the one called Overprepared. What this does is it permanently increases your magazine size by 50% on all weapons, which is really good for any build, really. As long as you reload your weapon before getting to 0, then you'll never get the negative debuff, and even if you do accidentally trigger that debuff, you can wait behind cover until it resolves itself. But let's talk about perks next. I'll have more of these detailed in the written guide too, by the way. Link for that is down below. But just to give you an idea of what's available, I'll go over some of my favorites and the most impactful perks on the Explosives build right now. First, we have Grenadier, which boosts your explosive damage and also unlocks a third slot for throwables, which is really good on this one. This pairs amazingly well later on with the Incendiary Chef perk. This one actually lets you craft a new grenade type called Volatile Grenades. These things are insane. They do massive damage, but they can also explode in your hand if you don't toss them quick enough, so do watch out for that. Deep Drums is also especially good on this build, as it boosts your magazine size even further for all your weapons. Don't forget the Secret Recipe perk as well. This is quite strong as it boosts your explosive range. But the best perks I've found for an insane combo is going to be Demolitionist combined with Lucky Strikes. These are both level 20 perks for explosives and guns respectively, which you should be able to reach just before endgame if you invest your skill points wisely. Demolitionist is definitely the preferred perk if you do have to choose one or the other, as this is going to make you immune to your own explosive damage. But as I said, I'll have all the recommended perks for this build down below in the rating guide, so make sure to check that when you get a chance. But what about armor and weapons? Well, luckily the explosives build has a ton of great options, though some of these don't appear until mid to late game. In the meantime, grabbing a triple barrel shotgun on Paradise Island as your starting weapon makes a lot of sense. You can actually get one of these just as you exit the ship on this first planet. This thing pumps out damage, and when you modify it with a plasma barrel, it can cut through human and creature enemies like butter. Along with that, you'll also want to grab the shock machine gun from the armory in Fairfield, as this one does insane damage versus automechs, which is basically the other main enemy type that you have to deal with in the Outer Worlds too. So those, along with grenades, would be your basic starting weapons, but once you reach Free Market Station, that's where you can pick up your first real explosive weapon called Agatha. This is a modified machine gun which deals explosive damage. It's a fun option for sure, but it doesn't deal the best damage until you start to max out your skills and perks, but still worth picking up so you start to feel the initial impact of an explosives build and what this can do. Now, a better option, in my opinion, is the Auto Spray SMG, which you can modify with explosive rounds and a double barrel. Combined with this weapon's rate of fire, you're now literally spraying out explosions, greatly increasing your damage while also making use of a common and cheap ammo type. And this is where the build starts to get really interesting. Now, you may be able to get this before, but I was able to find this for sale at the Auntie's Choice headquarters. That's the ACH Undisputed Claim. There is a vendor there who sells this weapon as well as explosive mods, so make sure to pick it up if you don't have it already. The last two weapons I love for this one, though, do require rockets, so the ammo is a bit more limited and expensive, but definitely worth picking up to see this build's full potential. The first is the Lock-On Rocket Launcher, which will be your go-to long-range option for picking off snipers and faraway enemies, as this locks onto the target to deliver your rocket from a distance. And then you have the unique pitchball machine weapon. This is another amazing option. This one has a much faster rate of fire, but less range. So I like to use this to fire low and blow up groups of enemies who are tightly packed together. All of this combined with your grenades of choice, including the ultra-powerful volatile grenades we mentioned earlier. You get those from the specific perk, and you can blow up things basically at any distance that you want. Moving on to armor next, the obvious choice here is the bomb suit and helmet for this build. The bomb suit is a great option because it does reduce your explosive damage taken by 90%, but the better item here in the set is actually the bomb suit helmet, in my opinion, as this one turns any explosive damage you deal into temporary health. Now, if you've noticed my health bar at any point in this video during the gameplay get covered with a clear bar, that is what temporary health looks like in the Outer Worlds 2. It's basically a damage shield that enemies have to break through first before they can deal any true damage to your health. And if you keep dealing explosive damage with this one, the temporary health bonus just keeps refreshing itself, making you basically unkillable as long as you're dealing damage. This is a fun and borderline broken mechanic that makes this build amazing to play all the way until endgame with the right weapons. Once you unlock Demolitionist perk, you might consider swapping just the bomb suit itself to something else and keeping the helmet, of course. In that case, the Xyranium Automech suit is a good option due to the Medical Limbo perk on that one, which can keep you alive for longer even when you hit 0 health. Plus, hovering is pretty cool as well. Now, in terms of gadgets on this one, tactical time dilation isn't actually needed because you don't have to aim much to actually do well with an explosives build. As we saw, some of our weapons even aim themselves. So in its place, I would recommend the gas energy shield for defense, or a really strong option if you can handle it is the N-ray scanner. This one gives you a huge 20% bonus to critical chance, which when you pair that with a high rate of fire weapon is absolutely insane. That's of course if you don't mind all the enemies turning purple while you use it, which can be a little bit annoying after a while. So maybe just switch to that one when you're facing against crowds. And now in terms of companions on this build, there's plenty of options here, but my favorite is probably Val combined with Niles, like the first starting combo that you get. I did come to find that Val is actually pretty strong as a support companion when it's fully upgraded, as those abilities can heal you and your other companion, they can clear status effects, they can even provide a huge permanent buff to your armor, making this build even more unkillable. Then Niles is basically a walking armory, as he can craft ammunition and mods on the fly wherever you are in the game without needing a crafting bench, plus break down all of your junk items for even more components to craft more ammo. In combat, he's not bad either, as his special ability can serve as a temporary distraction versus bosses, giving you a moment for some breathing room or to reload your weapons if you need to. But yeah, hopefully you found this explosives build for the Outer Worlds 2 helpful. If you did, make sure to crush that like button so YouTube knows to share this video with others. It is much appreciated. As I said, links are down below for the full rating guide, as well as even more build ideas for the Outer Worlds 2. If you'd like to see more of those builds in action, check out the video on your screen next, and I will see you there.